Welcome back to A Fresh Story, the podcast where we have conversations about brave decisions to start over again. I'm Olivia.
And I'm Jenny, and we're so glad you're here today, brave one.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, sissy?
She's laughing at me. I'm okay.
I'm laughing at myself. I messed up the first intro.
The sun is shining, and I'm really excited about today's episode. We had the chance to sit down with Danny Quin, who is an Emmy award-winning digital producer and one of the nicest guys probably in the world. I met him on Twitter a couple years back, and he's become a really good friend.
It's so fascinating meeting one of your friends that I have no part in that world. It's like meeting your camp friends or something, and this person has a whole relationship with you. And it was really nice to see somebody that, like, you guys have clearly invested in each other's lives and helped each other out. And he was so lovely and so vulnerable and wonderfully honest. And I don't think we could have had a better. He's our first guest that we recorded with. So
no, it was
we're really
awesome.
excited about that.
And like, just a testament to, like, we really had no, we bring people in to talk about their fresh starts. We don't really know people's fresh starts, right? We just kind of put the general concept out there. And what my takeaway from this conversation, I actually learned more about marriage than anything. Like, that was like a huge piece of the puzzle for me with this conversation. A beautiful testament to his marriage and how he partnership. So I hope that you all enjoy. We're gonna get to the conversation, and if you have questions, comments, suggestions, you know where to find us. We're so excited today. We have Emmy award-winning friend of mine, Danny Quin. Danny runs social media and digital for UMass Memorial Hospital. And in the past, he ran digital for NBC Boston and the Olympics. He is a mental health advocate and hosts the podcast Mental Health Role Models, which I've been a guest on. He's also an amazing dad of 3, and he's from the Boston area. Danny, thank you so much for being here today.
We're so happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm surprised you weren't able to get somebody better than me. I'm just
you're
just
the
kidding.
Best of the best.
Olivia and I talked about this yesterday. I had like imposter syndrome like crazy. I texted her kind of panicking and said, like, can't you find someone better? Like, I don't know if I can do this.
Well,
but, we can. They're just scheduled for later in the week. Don't worry about it.
Well, for all of you listening, in the background of Danny's room, he has his Emmy Award. So we are excited to kick off this season with an Emmy Award winning person. So Danny, we're all about fresh starts. So take us back historically, take us back through the journey where kind of your fresh start began.
Do you have 3 episodes for me? No,
we would have as many as you want.
So I'll put on my narrator voice. In the beginning, there was a young boy. No, so when I was in high school, I was obsessed with sports. I basically was raised with a baseball mitt in my hand. I played soccer. I always wanted to be in sports in some capacity. When I was in elementary school, I wanted to be a mascot. Teacher shot that down and said it wasn't a legitimate dream. So whatever. So when I was in high school,
it is a legitimate dream,
right?
I'm going to argue with that teacher.
Yeah. So I used to love the show Around the Horn, and it just, like, it was conversational, it was fun, and it was people just talking sports, and I loved that. And so junior year, I was kind of like of high school, I was kind of tossing around ideas. I had kind of a run-in with another teacher, which fantastic. She shot down all hopes and dreams of doing anything. She basically told me I would amount to nothing.
Wow.
Which is not exactly what you want to do to a junior's confidence. So I actually nearly enlisted into the Air Force, following the footsteps of my parents. My mom talked me out of it. She said, I want you to do at least 2 years of college, and then you can kind of make your decision from there. I went to Fitchburg State, which had a strong media broadcasting focus, video, radio, kind of all that jazz. and I never left. So I went there. I had an amazing mentor by the name of Rob Carr, and he challenged me. So I basically took that 2-year rule, and I sucked at school. So like I was on the verge of being on academic probation, and Rob Carr actually took me by the shirt, the collar of my shirt, and said, "You are a better writer than this." I wrote the worst paper, I swear. He grabbed me by the collar of my shirt, said, "You are a better writer than this. Go home, rewrite this now." That was the turning point of my life. And in like as a college student, which I mean, we all have
Danny, do you think that your like issues with schooling came a little bit from the teachers that shot you down so much kind of through your journey?
Not really a psychologist, but like so I grew up, my brother's 1 year older than me, or like 22 months older than me, so 1 grade above me. So as I was kind of living in that shadow, he was a great student, super outgoing, very like you couldn't not like my brother. And he was very smart, came very easy to him, and it was a little more work for me, which and I wasn't willing to put in that work. And I think that very much go ahead.
I think a lot of times we don't know how to put that work in. Like we assume that kids know what that means to put the work in, or what it means to write a paper, the right way. And I think it's so gatekept of like what that actually is. I think it needs to, you need to have somebody grab you and be like, you can do this. Like, this is how you're going to do this.
Right. And so I that kind of turned my college times around. I was placed thanks to a friend of Tim. I was my friend named Tim. I was placed at Comcast Sportsnet, which later became NBC Sports Boston, for my internship. And that set me on this road. I was addicted. My boss was amazing. He passed away last year, but like he changed my life. He basically, my first day, I was sitting at my desk, and the Red Sox traded Manny Del Carmen. I will never forget this trade. It was so minor. They traded Manny Del Carmen for Chris Balcom Miller to of the Colorado Rockies. And he looks at me. He says, "You're on it." So I wrote up breaking news on my first day and I'll never forget that move. And so I was addicted, and so for my internship at Fitchburg State, I had to do 40 hours a week for 6 months, and that was kind of their baseline, not paid, by the way. And so I was working full-time at Comcast Sportsnet, and then I was working at a retirement community over the weekend, basically working doubles, 6 a.m. or triples for that matter, 6 a.m. to 7:00 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays to get through this.
This is your like early 20s, right?
Yeah. So I was 20 years old. My wife and I were just starting dating. So that was like that's a hard time anyway. And so I was doing that. On my last day of my internship, my boss pulled me aside and said, "I don't usually say this to people, but you have a future here." He's like, I don't know when that starts, because I can't offer anything to you right now, but you have a future in this business. I can tell how much you love it. So like, he's like, "Just keep me in your contacts." And I was like, "Okay, cool." Then I started working nonstop at the retirement home while I was applying for jobs. Nobody wanted me for jobs. I had a couple interviews here and there, and they're like, whatever. So I was out on the dance floor at my friend's wedding, and my old boss's face pops up on my phone, and he called me, and I said to Sarah, I was like, "I gotta go." And so I took the call. He offered me freelance hours. So I was doing 3 to 4 days freelance at Comcast Sportsnet, and then I was still working at the retirement home. So I was working about minimum of 70 hours a week.
Wow.
Every week.
Did you sleep?
No. So the retirement home was in between. So I was working 6 a.m. to 2:30 at the retirement home. Then I was working 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. at Comcast. And
seeing Sarah when?
Exactly. Exactly. So she was on board. She loved it. Like she thought
Right.
she said, "This is your dream. Go after it."
But you literally didn't sleep.
I slept in the parking garage at work, and every now I'd wake up to somebody knocking on the window saying like, "Hey, do you work here?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I work here. Thanks."
Wow.
So I did that for about a year. I did that for about a year, basically not sleeping, not eating healthy, none of that. Like I was down in the dumps. All my friends were getting their dream jobs, and I was kind of like, "Oh,
Right.
I'm still working at this nursing home." Um, Fast forward, probably, yeah, actually, it was 2 years. Fast forward to 2014 or 2013. My boss asked me, he's like, "This is an opportunity of a lifetime. I'd love for you to do this." Um, he wanted to send me to Sochi for the Olympics, for the mothership NBC Sports. And so I basically had to decide, do I want to chase this dream or do I want a full-time job? And because I had to quit my other job to go to Sochi,
Right.
because
Right.
obviously you can't just be like, "Well, I'm going to take
Yeah.
a month off or a
Yeah.
whole month off." So I actually quit my other job at the nursing home and went away for a month to cover the 2014 Olympics,
Wow.
which is like the ultimate leap of faith, which is so out of my character. And I came back kind of jobless, and my boss Art calls me into the office and he says, "How would you like to be my night editor?" And I pretty much, like, I melted that day. That was that was that was dream come true, and it was everything I worked for.
Yeah.
So if I start rambling, just
No, you're
say
good.
like, "Hey, come over, back over this way."
No, no, no.
You're the only one that knows the way the story goes too.
so so yeah, and then a month later my wife found out she was pregnant with our first.
Okay.
And so I was working 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. 5 days a week, sometimes six, depending on what was going on. And my wife was super pregnant. Well, Grayson was born on New Year's Eve, and so 2015, it was crazy. I was working until 2, driving home till 3, waking up with a newborn at 4 a.m. um it was not healthy at all. I got shingles because I was so stressed out and
It's
all
not
that.
sustainable.
Yeah.
How
Oh
did
yeah.
that impact your marriage?
Oh, it was bad. I mean, I think at that time Sarah and I were good. We were on the same page. But she was working full time. She was doing mom duty at night, and it was a struggle. It was a struggle, but we both kind of knew what we signed up for at that point. Um, Fast forward a little bit to early 26, no, 2015, my wife is pregnant again. Later that year. We knew that we wanted to have another. It happened a lot sooner than we were expecting, which is fine. We're happy we had another healthy boy.
Yeah.
Crazy part was I actually signed up to go away to NBC Sports for the Rio Olympics, and Brady was 5 days old when I left, and that was kind of the breaking point for my wife. It was like she knew, we knew that he was going to be like brand spanking new when I left, but I think it really, and she pushed me to do it. She's like, "You're not missing this. Do this. This is huge."
Yeah.
And but I think it hit hard. That it was
That
like,
transition from 1 to 2 is really hard
it was a
too.
big jump. It was a big jump.
Yeah.
And I was sitting in a hotel room in Stamford, Connecticut, basically every night, crying myself to sleep because I was missing the first month of my child's life, knowing that my wife was pissed off at me.
Did
And
you
so,
have support? Was there family? Was there
oh
anybody?
yeah, like they say it takes a village. I have a city. Like my parents are great, her parents are great, and like we have friends that are so supportive and willing to help, which is it. You can't trade that for the world.
But how did that feel though? Like you said, sitting in the hotel room, crying, knowing that on one side, right, you had this dream to go to the Olympics again. On the other side, you are an incredibly devoted father, and I know that, and how, missing these like really important bonding days with your child. Like, how did that feel?
It felt like I failed.
Yeah.
It felt like I was failing. It felt like I was failing my family. It felt like I was failing my wife, who, I mean, she was there through me for me through thick and thin, and I'm forever grateful for that. And it was kind of, I decided when I was there, okay, this is probably my last hurrah. And then I came home and started kind of looking for jobs. It was
Right.
and it was one of those, like, I was, you've seen the gif of like a guy just like staring at a screen, like just not wanting to do something. And that's what I wanted. Like, I was going through the motions applying for jobs, because it was like, yeah, I need to apply for jobs, and I didn't want to. I was stubborn. I pictured myself going to my children's career day being like, yeah, I work in sports, this is awesome. And I didn't want to. And so uh, later, that, I believe it was 2017, my contract was up. So I was on contracts, just being renewed every year. My contract was up, and I had to go through a 3-month hiatus. So I would have been jobless for 3 months, and then they could renew my contract. It was just the way it went. It was weird. And so it was kind of like, you know what, this is the moment that I needed, the push that I needed. And still, it killed me, because I just kept flashing back to those nights sleeping in the car, all the hard work my wife put in, like support and stuff like that. And it was like, I felt like it was all a waste. And this is after 7 years in the industry.
Yeah.
So
the expectations were so different.
Yeah.
It's also hard. I think I worked in live events for a long time, 5-7 years, something like that. And like the ultimate goal was the Olympics, right? We knew people who went. A coworker's mom had like produced one of them, and it was like, that's the ultimate goal, and it's a huge deal. And that kind of life is so, any sort of production life in that way is so fast paced, it's so exciting. Like, even though you miss your family, I mean, at the last years I was gone, I'd say 4 months out of the year, you miss your partner, you miss your family, but like, it is so live, and you're getting so much sort of like adrenaline, and it is so exciting. And dopamine. And I, at the time, was like, well, what's going to happen when I have a kid? And people would say, well, you'll just do the pre-show and somebody else will go on site. And I was like, but that's the drug. And so it was really hard. The only reason I was able to give that up was because the pandemic hit, and I was like, well, now it's just the pre-show part. Like, nobody's going anywhere. And they took the drug away. And so I was able to wean myself, basically. But I get it. Like, you can't go from that to then being like, I guess I'll just go get a normal job. I mean, I like understand that you wanted to go into school and be like, your dad's a superstar, your dad's going to the Olympics. And it's a real hit to like lose that.
And I think I use this as an example all the time. Is there was the Super Bowl that the Patriots played the Seattle Seahawks. I was covering it with my boss, and Malcolm Butler intercepted it on the goal line. Game was literally in the Seahawks' hands. We had everything written, everything prepared as the Patriots lose narrative. It changed like that. We wrote a game story, changed a gallery, did this, did that in a matter of minutes. Like, reorganized a website in a matter of minutes. There's nothing I will ever do in my career that will change or that will take that out of my holy crap, I can't believe we accomplished that, like, mantle. And then the Olympics, like, you tell people you worked the Olympics, and it's like, wait, what? And now what do you do for work? So it's kind of like it in a lot of people's minds, and this took me time to get over. A lot of people's minds, it was, I was here, I was up high, I was working the biggest friggin' event in the world, and now I'm working at a regional hospital, like that. So that kind of, it's like, well, why did you leave? Because my family. And that's kind of where my fresh start began. Is when I left NBC, I started working at a small company called Space Age Electronics. Great company, created equipment for like fire systems, smoke control, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I went there and it wasn't for me. I was doing technical documentation. I was sitting in a dark office by myself, couldn't walk. Like I was used to being in a newsroom and being able to walk over to people and be like, did you see that play? Like, no, I had to sit in this dark office. I was working on technical documentation. And it was like, oh, when is this due? Oh, 4 months from now. It's like, well, I'm done. Like there was,
Right.
I was used to 5-minute deadlines,
Go.
not
Yeah.
5-month deadlines.
Right.
So it hit me hard, that I lost all that, and I was now writing technical documentation and hating it.
Did you resent your family ever for that?
It's kind of a tricky answer. I felt like I failed, and I felt like they knew that I failed, and I felt like they resented me for that. And I think that was where the resentment is I, f- I I feel like I failed them. They feel like it was just a tangled web. But then
Everybody's upset and nobody's proud.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I reached out to a few of my friends like that I previously worked with that were out of the industry. One of which I actually had on my podcast, and she left the industry on kind of rocky terms. And I texted her and I said, Mary, do you miss it? And she said, sometimes. And she's like, do I miss the good times? Yes. Do I miss the hard times? No. And so like that was kind of a great starting point for me. And then I actually got a friend request which on LinkedIn, which was totally an accident. Like they totally accidentally pressed me, and it was a former beat writer for the Boston Bruins, John Bishop. And so I sent him a message and I was like, hey, Bish, do you have a moment to talk to me? I'm getting out of the industry. I'm super depressed. I'm having a hard time. How did you kind of make that transition? And he said to me, he said, ultimately, I don't consider myself a sports writer, and I never did. I considered myself a storyteller. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said, I like that just that will again that will stick in my head forever. And so I kind of got off that call and I said, I'm a storyteller. I'm not a sports writer, I'm a storyteller. So I started kind of bringing those aspects into what I was doing at Space Age. I was telling stories about the guy doing the wire harnesses in the room, and they were big hits. Like it was bringing up morale and all that. And so I kind of started looking, and then this job at UMass Memorial popped up, and so I applied, and it took a while because it's a large organization and stuff. So when I was at Space Age, I became a yes man, and that was just from my time at NBC. It was, do you want to work this shift? Yep. Do you want to work this shift? Yep. I want you to do this. Yep. Cool. James Monjo, I was reporting to him. He was the director of business development. So it's super intimidating working with basically the person who's running this company. And he said to me one day, because I was just nodding, I was like, yep. He said, I know this is a fucking bad idea. Tell me this is a fucking bad idea. He's like, I'm not going to be offended. Just be ready to back it up. And that was the day I became a professional, because I knew that I no longer was just saying yes for the sake of yes and doing it.
Right.
And so that moment actually transitioned me into where I'm at UMass. I got the job offer, and I think that's what has made me successful where I am, is the fact that I can say, no, I'm not doing this because A, B, C, and D. And I always have those answers ready to go when I do that.
It's not, I don't think it was an accident that you got that LinkedIn message, right? I mean, that's the universe was trying to lead you exactly where you were supposed to be. How do you feel like that newfound kind of confidence in saying no resonated with everything else in your life?
I think it kind of gave me strength. It gave me strength to say no to work, to say to draw that line and say, I am a dad first. I am a dad. I am a husband first. Then I am a social media manager. And I love where I am right now because they support that and they appreciate that. And the fact that I'm able to speak my truth and about how I'm feeling mentally, how I'm feeling like physically, and I can take that time and be and focus on me, which has never been something I've done. It was everything went into my dream,
right?
And it changed everything.
Yeah.
And when you have a dream and you're so young too, and you're so excited and you don't have any experience, you have no boundaries, right? So like you said, you were a yes man. Like I was in a very similar position where I was like, you're willing to fly me to Las Vegas for a job? Yeah, absolutely. It's on my birthday. Sure. Fine. Everything was always yes, because it's so exciting. And the problem is, when you've gotten far down that road, it's really hard to institute those boundaries afterwards to be like, wait, by the way, I have a kid now. I can't do that anymore. It's kind of, you can't redefine that relationship. And so the combination of learning to say no as an adult, as a father, as a professional, and then coming into this new job and having like that I can't think of the word, but the combination of all of those things, I must be like life-changing. I mean, you must feel like you have a whole sort of like a fresh start at your family life.
Yeah. And I mean, Sarah and I were, she'll tell everyone this is Sarah and I were on the rocks. We very much were, because I couldn't figure out what I wanted. And I was depressed. Men don't talk about this. Men need to start talking about this. I was depressed. I was hurting. I kept everything inside. And I owe everything to Sarah, because she saw that, she identified that, and she said, I want you to go to the doctor. I want you to figure this out. I didn't want to take medication. I didn't want to feel numb. I didn't want to, I'm an outgoing person. I didn't want to be a robot. I didn't want to be like, yes, I'm on medication. I said, yeah. Okay, fine. One day I was sitting at my desk, and my phone starts going off that I now had a profile at my doctor's office. Sarah went on the portal, signed me up, wrote in all the stuff that needed to be said. And so, and then I get a text and it says, and you're going. That's all it said. And so that day they prescribed me, I don't even remember what it was, but obviously, like with medication, it was we're gonna try this, that one made me very angry, and it was bad. And so then they upped the dose, and it kind of brought me back level, but I was still having those highs and lows. And now they finally settled on something, and holy crap, what a difference it has made for me, energy wise, personality wise. And it just the stigma against, not against, but around medication is just like, it doesn't make me a robot. Like, you can see that right now. I'm not a robot. I'm a personality still. It just takes away that roller coaster. My highs were so high, my lows were so low. When I was low, I wanted that. At one point, I actually, and not a whole lot of people know this, I actually pulled over on the side of the road in a busy highway, and I opened my door and I was ready to just walk out.
Wow.
And it was just the feeling that I let everybody down. And like that's how far my lows got. And those lows were hidden behind empty smiles. And I think that happens way too much. And I think talking about it and having as I've coined the term, mental health role model has really helped. And that actually came to me when I was at NBC, which, as you always say, Olivia, everything happens for a reason. And there is an anchor, Trenny Kuznarek. I recently got married, so her last name's different now, but she became that mental health role model for me. She actually was scheduled to be featured in an article in Milwaukee Magazine, and she took the topic and turned it on its head. It was shortly after Junior Seau, linebacker for the New England Patriots, committed suicide. And it very much hit her hard. And she's like, you know what? I want to talk about depression and anxiety. And so she talked about kind of locking herself in the closet and stuff like that, but still being able to be on TV, which just blew my mind. And so I think it was like a 1 a.m. after a 1 a.m. show, I approached her and I said, hey, Trenny, I can't help but say thank you for that article, because like I have everything I've ever wanted and I feel like crap. And so that kind of made it, that's where I kind of preach having that mental health role model, because having these people in the public eye that are going through the same things that we are, and they're open, they're honest, like that's making the world of a difference, whether people admit it or not. And that made being open and honest has changed me. Because I don't have that bottled depression, anxiety. Like I still have those. It's not a poison to me anymore. Like it's there. It's part of me. It always will be a part of me, but it's not poison. It's just something that makes me me.
You know, I have so much to say about this. I mean, I think that we underestimate culturally those feelings of shame, especially as a parent, that you're letting your family down. We don't talk about that. You know, and I think that like when the combination, right, of sleep deprivation, shame, feeling like a failure, feeling like you're going to let your children down, I think that it leads a lot more people to that edge of darkness than and I'm raising my hand for this too, you know, than we want to talk about. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, because as somebody that has also worked in social media for years, I did a very good job at hiding what was happening in my marriage on social media, right? So what are your thoughts, or like how did you do that? You know, like you said, you had these empty smiles, right? So like you were slowly dying behind the scenes. What did it look like on social media for your family at that time?
It was first words, first steps. It was happy moments. It was it was that, and it was, I was seeing my wife once every 7 days, and sometimes more. If there was Monday night football, I wasn't getting home till 7 o'clock in the morning, and she was in the process of leaving, and it was bye. It was I know, as a social media manager, we see the highlights.
Literally, that's what your job was, right? I mean, that's
you were trained to show the highlights.
Yeah, it's you see the highlights, you don't see the lowlights, which and that's, I mean, you said that I'm a devoted father. I am a devoted father. Am I the best father? No, I have my flaws, like we all do.
Yep.
They don't give out Emmy awards for parenting though, so there's no way to know who the best father is, to be
right
fair.
well, right
Could be you.
I mean, but that said, I post pictures of my kids crying, but why? Because it's real life. It's not perfect. It's not perfection. Sarah and I have been open and honest about the fact that both of us have had struggles with mental health. I did something similar to what she did. She was having postpartum depression, and I contacted her doctor and I said, hey, this is what I'm seeing. She doesn't want to talk about it. She has a checkup coming up, and I'd love it if you could talk about it. And
Well,
so
that's
yeah.
first
That's
of all,
a beautiful form of
yeah.
partnership. I mean, it's the
Yeah.
partnership Olivia and I have with each other. And you know, it's a very intimate and very close and very trusting place to be, right? Because I think there's a lot of times that the story that you told about her setting up the appointment with your doctor could easily go another way, which is like feeling completely intruded upon and violated,
Controlled.
but be controlled. But because of the way that you trust her and she trusts you, you know that you're looking out for the best interests of each other, and that is it speaks volumes to what your marriage must be. And I think that that's a very beautiful thing.
I mean, we're a team, and we've known that from the start. And I think that was the only reason why we made it through. And if, because what we went through, other people's wouldn't have made it through. And it's not that we're sticking together because we have our children and stuff like that. And this is my opinion. Like, she could be like, yeah, I hate you, and
we'll get her on the show.
But no, I think the fact that we are that team, and we are looking out for all these little things in each other, it's huge. I actually, and the fact that we both are open and honest about our mental health has kind of led to how we are parenting our children. Our oldest has done therapy. Our oldest has had issues with school. I actually wrote a piece about it for UMass Memorial, and I focused on he came home from school one day just in tears. Every day was in tears. Didn't want to go, didn't understand anything, wasn't performing the way that he wanted to perform. He skipped kindergarten. Like, he skipped kindergarten. He went from pre-K to first grade. Can you imagine that? Like, I can't imagine that.
No.
So being able to juggle that as a father, I gave him a hug, and I just kind of reassured him, we will figure it out. I actually utilized a child therapist at work. She had a strategy using the 3 R's. I can't remember them right off the bat, but it was one of them was reassurance. And I walked him through those 3 steps, and then we figured it out. It was.
But what a beautiful gift you are giving to your family after everything that you've been through, that you are raising your children to trust you and Sarah, to be open with the mental health. And you are literally raising a team of people who are going to be mental health role models for their peers.
Hope so.
I mean, and that's so beautiful. And I wanted to say too, like, you and Sarah are marriage role models. You know, like, as somebody that's single and looking for my next partner, I do look at you and Sarah and think, like, well, if I did tell my partner to go to get help, and he did not. And, you know, we
Me
are
too.
right. And our paths went different ways because of that, you know. And so I look at you guys and I'm like, well, they believe in each other. They trust each other on such a cellular level that is possible to find. And so I'm just commending you and Sarah for, like, sharing your story, because it really does impact the people around you, and how we can be like, oh no, there are men out there that really do want to be part of this partnership and build this beautiful family and be open with their mental health and still
raise their sons in a very intentional and therapeutic way, for sure. I think it is a beautiful thing to see.
There's that idea of masculinity is, I think it's becoming a thing of the past. And I hope so, because I mean, like, I'm not like this big machismo. Like, I'm 5'3". Like, I'm not, I don't go to the gym every day. Like, yeah, that's fine. But I feel like I'm stronger as a person in terms of my confidence and stuff like that than I ever have been. I believe that I would never change what I went through. what my family went through, because it brought me to who I am today as a person, as a father, as a professional.
Yeah.
It just never look back in anger at what
No,
happened.
because it's lessons. It's all just
Keep pressing
lessons.
forward.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I know that you are a confident person because you have reached out to me for help at times, right? To work through things. And I've reached out to you at times. And like the ability to say, I am going through something and I need help is such
Mhm.
a skill that, people don't, you're not born with that necessarily, right? Or
Mhm.
we get it kind of tampered down over the years. And so for you to be like, yeah, I'm a man, but I'm going to reach out to my friends for help, I think it speaks volumes about all the work that you've done on yourself.
Well, I mean, it's like I said, I man or woman, like I feel like people bottling it up inside is a poison,
Yeah.
and it's not productive for anybody.
No. No.
And
No.
I have friends that it has killed, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's not something that I want anybody to go through.
No, I agree. So what were the things or anything that helped you through any of these fresh starts in your life that you could say to if somebody comes to you and they're like, Danny, I'm going through a fresh start. What would you recommend that people do or have product wise or service wise to help them?
So I am the ultimate preacher of never stop learning.
Mm.
And so when I was kind of going through that transition of holy crap, I'm leaving sports and it doesn't plug into any specific role. It's all these skills,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
but it doesn't plug into any specific role. I took to YouTube and to
Mm.
LinkedIn Premium, and I took the free online classes to learn how to do Adobe Premiere and Illustrator and this and that, and brush up on my Photoshop skills. Never stop learning. It's you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not looking forward, whether it's
Mm.
learning a new technology, learning the how the algorithm on social media is moving. When I joined UMass Memorial as a social media specialist, I had probably focused career on social media. Not at all. I was a
Mm.
digital editor, and I was a marketing manager, or a marketing associate, or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
was.
Mm-hmm.
But I fully immersed myself in learning those tools
Mm-hmm.
after I figured out that's what I wanted to do. I fully immersed myself. I learned. I became a student of the game at 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's never too late to start over and get that engine chugging again,
Yeah.
and go in a different direction.
Yeah.
Do you have I wonder if you have a list of some of the resources you use, because I would love to share that with our audience and with with our greater audience. I think that would be a wonderful different take on a fresh start, right? Of like, this is a way to have a fresh start, is to teach yourself with free resources and
Yeah.
available resources.
Yeah, I mean, and I didn't have the money to go
Right.
take classes, and the
Right.
last thing I wanted to do was add to my student loan.
Right.
So it was very much just utilizing what was there. And
Right.
Yeah.
if a friend knew how to do Adobe Illustrator, I'd sit next to him and I'd say, hey, how did you do that? How did you do this? And
Mm-hmm.
and I would just, there was no stopping me from learning.
Yeah.
And to this day, like, it's I was asked to do something the other day. I was like, well, I don't know how to do it, so I'm gonna go learn how to do it. I'll see you in a week, and I'm gonna figure this out, and we're gonna take care of this.
But I think that also goes back to what you were saying about confidence, right? You are a confident person. So it's okay to say I don't know how to do something because it's not
Mm-hmm.
hitting your ego, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
saying like, "Oh, this makes me look like I'm a failure. I'm stupid because I don't know how to do something." You are excited. That is like, and this is where we are shifting the cultural narrative, right? You're taking that shame away from saying like, I don't know how to do something, to saying, oh, I'm excited to learn how to do something. And if we could help people shift that narrative, right, to say I'm excited to learn something, there's truly no stopping people, right? You could go do anything you wanted in this world because you just have to learn how to do it.
And that speaks to how far like I've come as a person, because I was for the longest time that person that when it was time to post, my hand was going like this. It's like, no, I don't want to hit the post button. I don't want to, and then hit it. But now it's very much okay. I'm going in here with confidence, which, I mean, having anxiety the way that I do, like my hand is going right now, just talking to you, and I'm comfortable around you guys. Like,
Yeah.
But it's very, like I said, it's very much part of me, and I own it.
Yeah.
And like I was in a staff meeting the other day and my hand was going and someone's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm just anxious. I don't like sitting in a room looking at everybody. Like I feel like you're looking at me, making fun of my mustache, like things like that." But just being able to own things is huge.
So if you had like
it can't go away, right? It's not going to go away from you, so you may as well own it.
Right. Exactly.
If you had like one piece of advice for somebody that was going to make a life change or a fresh start, what would you say?
Do it. I just take that moment and go. It's never too late to start over. Just remember that everything in your past made you who you are today, and it didn't make you weaker, it made you stronger. Whether it was a challenge, whether it was a positive, whether it was a negative, it was all a building block in making you, and never look past that.
I love that. I love it. Jenny, as always, we're so happy to have you here. You have become such an important person in my life, and I'm so just blessed and honored to have you in my orbit. Thank you for just getting vulnerable and sharing all of this. And truly, I know what you're doing is changing other people and impacting other people. And we're really proud of you. And, we're really just proud of anybody that is helping shift that narrative and empower people, because it's
100%.
not easy to do. So thank you for being here today.
Of course. Appreciate you, ladies.
Thank you for listening to today's story. We're always here and we're proud of you. Until next time, brave one.
A Fresh Story is brought to you by Fresh Starts Registry, the first and only platform for everything you need to start again. You can read the show notes and learn more about today's episode at freshstartsregistry.com/podcast.